It is my honor and pleasure to introduce Kate Rimel and her family, who are sitting here with us this morning. CCF had the pleasure of meeting this amazing family at our pediatric campaign kickoff last summer at Giant Food. She, along with her family, were there, and then they joined us at our gala this past November, where I think her entire neighborhood also joined us. So there is a really strong community supporting Kate and her family. Her journey began much before we met amazing Kate. In September of 2022, at the beginning of 8th grade, Kate, an active 14-year-old, became exhausted doing the smallest of activities. After several high fevers and ER visits, Kate was diagnosed with B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Joining us today, Kate, her parents, Robert and Amy, brother Jack, and I will just add that when I first spoke with Robert and Amy, one of the things that resonated with me when I speak with families is how important it is to have advocates and to have your family supporting you and looking out for you. And I think for all of us in this room, no matter your role, you know how important it is to have your family by your side. And this family is a perfect example of persistence and support and making sure that Kate had the diagnosis that she needs so she could get the treatment that she needed. So with no further ado, please join me in welcoming Kate and her family.
Before I got sick, I would come home from school each day full of energy. I would run on our treadmill, do a yoga workout, or sometimes both. In September of 2022, all of that changed. I would get home from school with no energy at all. I would lay on our couch until dinner, eat, then lay back down. My parents were worried I was depressed or struggling adapting to a new school year. None of us suspected cancer. In mid-September, I spiked a very high fever and we went to our local ER. Nothing was diagnosed that night, but my mom knew something was wrong. A week later, we were able to see my pediatrician and a blood test made her suspect leukemia. We were sent straight to Johns Hopkins Hospital. Hi, my name is Kate Rimel. I'm 15, and I have B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I was admitted to Hopkins with a hemoglobin of 6.1 and platelets of 61. My white blood cell count was still in the normal range, 7,000. I think because of my mom, we caught my leukemia pretty early. Because of my age, I was classified as high risk, but was told I had favorable genetics. The first few days at Hopkins were a blur, but I vividly remember the day my oncology team laid out my treatment plan. I still thought I'd take a few pills and get better. They walked us through the phases of treatment. 10 months of difficult frontline treatment, followed by more than a year of long-term maintenance. When the team left the room, I burst into tears. My parents asked what was wrong. In one conversation, everything I was looking forward to was taken from me. I said, we aren't going to Colorado at Christmas, we aren't going on spring break, and I'm probably not going to camp next summer. When I first learned I had leukemia, I said, I can't have leukemia, I have a science quiz tomorrow. I take school pretty seriously. In the first few days at Hopkins, my biggest concern wasn't my cancer, it was my grades. I was missing assignments and my grades were dropping. My dad spoke with my principal seeking a solution. They told us about a new technology where I could attend school virtually using a telepresence robot. By the following week, I was back in class with my friends and teachers using my robot from home. Using my computer, I could drive the robot from class to class and park at my desk. I could talk to my friends and teachers and participate in class and small group work. I am proud to say I made up every assignment I missed and finished my 8th grade year with straight A's. For me, using the robot to stay in school made a huge difference. I know some kids opt to do the home and hospital program, but for me, I needed the structure of a school day to keep me engaged and motivated. When I felt good, I participated in class from our kitchen table, but on many days, I felt so bad I could barely get out of bed. On those days, I forced myself to sit up in bed and attend my classes. I even took my laptop to my clinic appointments and my inpatient stays. Another benefit of using the robot was that I was learning at the same pace as my classmates. In the spring of my 8th grade year, I was feeling good enough and my ANC count was high, so I could go back to school for a few weeks. that would not have been possible if I hadn't been in class with them virtually every day. The first phase of my treatment was called induction and lasted 28 days. I was inpatient for the first week and home the rest of the month. I was on high doses of prednisone and my emotions were all over the place. I remember raging at my mom and grandma because they weren't cleaning my room right. I had a real hard time communicating with friends. A bunch of people reached out to me, but I just didn't want to talk. My friends from camp reached out, but I didn't return their calls. I feel bad about that today, but it was just such a hard time. I did have 2 very close girlfriends that visited me regularly. They were some of the only people I felt comfortable around. I hated the prednisone puff. My face got all round, and I was very self-conscious about the way I looked. It didn't help that I was living on a diet of mozzarella sticks, chips and queso, and buffalo sauce. I craved spicy food. In addition to the puff, steroids gave me diabetes. I had to learn to test my blood sugar and give myself insulin. I was told it could be permanent, but thankfully it was just fake diabetes. It went away when I got off the steroids, but came back months later when I was on another pulse. During consolidation, I really struggled with nausea. At one point, I was taking Zofran and Ativan and wearing a scopolamine patch and relief band watch. Even that wasn't enough. My team added another drug, Zyprexa. After 2 weeks, we increased my Zyprexa dose and everything went off the rails. I was at home when I started acting strange. I was sliding off the couch, crying, giggling, and then I started twitching. It started with uncontrolled facial expressions, but then moved to my limbs. My arms and legs were flailing. My mom called the clinic, then was instructed to call an ambulance. This was my first ambulance ride ever, but not my last. I was inpatient at Hopkins for a few days. They had me hooked to an EEG machine and under camera observation so they could see my brain waves during an episode. They initially suspected methotrexate toxicity, but later determined it was dyskinesia caused by an allergic reaction to Zyprexa. A dose of Benadryl later, and I was fine. During treatment, I started to have some real anxiety issues. There were many things that triggered my anxiety. Taking my pills, the parking garage at Hopkins, and even certain foods and smells I identified with treatment. I would look at my pill container and puke. I still can't use the hand sanitizer they have at Hopkins or eat Subway. My nurse had to put a pillowcase over the IV bags of methotrexate and blood so I couldn't see them. I met with a hospital psychiatrist during one of my inpatient stays, and I was put on a low dose of anti-anxiety medication. Finally, something just clicked, and I was able to handle my treatment. Every once in a while, I still get a little anxious and queasy, but thankfully my mom doesn't go anywhere without a barf bag in her purse. I held on to my hair for a long time. By April of 2023, it was getting pretty thin. One day, I ran a brush through my hair, and it all just started coming out. You'd think, as a teenage girl, this would have freaked me out, but I was ready for it. In fact, I created a Snapchat story with my friends called "The Bald Eagle Has Landed." My parents bought me a beautiful wig. We threw a wig party with our friends and neighbors where everyone wore a wig. One thing about me, I'm always looking for an excuse to have a party. My next significant side effect was during delayed intensification. I had been inpatient for a couple of days with a neutropenic fever. My blood pressure was high and my pupils were dilated, but no one knew why. The night I got home, I suddenly had a weird pain in my hand and arm. I yelled for my mom, and she found me having a seizure in my bed. My brother was home and called 911. After a short stay at our local ER, we were transported by the COW van, otherwise known as the critical care team, to Hopkins. We spent a night in the Hopkins ER, and neurology tried to send me home without any testing. I told them, I don't want to leave here until I know what's wrong with me. 2 hours later, I had another, far worse seizure. After an MRI, they found a large blood clot in my brain. This was a side effect of pegospirogase, one of the chemotherapy drugs I had been taking. It took 6 months of giving myself blood thinner shots in my stomach twice a day for the clot to fully resolve. This was the scariest part of my treatment for me and my family. Most recently, I developed AVN, or osteonecrosis, in my knees and hips. The high doses of steroids of my treatment caused the bones in my joints to lose blood and start to die. Did I mention how much I hate steroids? This past March, I had a core decompression surgery in both my knees and my left hip. They filled the ball joint of my hip with an artificial bone product. This surgery was a success, and I'm pretty sure I won't have a hip replacement at 15. I'm off my crutches and going through physical therapy to build back my strength. Today, I'm in long-term maintenance phase. My end of treatment date is January 20th, 2025. I have been feeling well enough to attend my freshman year of high school in person almost every day, and I've still got straight A's. Although I spent most of my time today talking about the challenges, there were some positives. Our family motto throughout my treatment has been more good days than bad, and that has definitely been true. I am extremely thankful for my care team at Hopkins. Somehow, we found ways to make clinic visits fun. I have silly nicknames for all my nurses, and we share a love of Taylor Swift. I even got to attend her concert in Pittsburgh last year. I got to meet Tom Wilson of the Washington Capitals and was asked to present him with a Community Service Award on the ice at the last home game of the season. I won the Mo Gaba Positivity and Perseverance Award for my school district and was featured in a television news story about my robot. I was the honorary starter of the Ronald McDonald House Red Shoe Shuffle in 2023 and walked the whole 5K. I even found an awesome summer camp for kids with cancer called Camp Sunrise. The camp is supported and staffed by doctors and nurses from Johns Hopkins. My favorite nurse even made sure she volunteered on my birthday last summer. I was asked to be the ambassador for the Giant Foods Pediatric Cancer Campaign that raised nearly $2 million for researchers like you. I have found a love for public speaking, and I know I want to work in oncology when I finish school. Thank you to the Children's Cancer Foundation and all of you researchers for everything you're doing for kids like me.
Great.
Thank you.
So it sounds like the family would be willing to take a few questions. I just have to say, you are off to an amazing start as a public speaker. So I think, selling products that people don't need, convincing people about, the benefits of things that they probably wouldn't, and more importantly, though, becoming a health advocate. And that is something that's really, really important in today's world. And teaching people and getting people to pay attention to the science and to the things that are the most important to keep them healthy. You've got a great start in that. So thank you for sharing. And are there questions for Kate or her family? Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. Your story is incredible, and you are obviously an incredible person, and you inspire all of us, I think, for why we do what we do and dedicate our research to cancer. My most important question is, what are the upcoming parties? Because it sounds like you've got some great ones that you've been participating in. Any fun things for the summer that you have planned?
Well, we have my brother's birthday party coming up next week, my birthday party coming up in August. What else do we have?
A trip with our neighbors.
We're going back to the beach this summer. More exciting stuff there.
And you got to go on spring break.
Yeah, I finally got to go on a spring break trip, our first trip out of Maryland since I was diagnosed, which was really fun.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And again, thank you so much for coming today. Your
you.
story is incredible.
Hi, thank you so much. It was, as already beautifully said, but so inspirational. And as a medical student going into the care field of pediatrics, how do you feel like your care team was able to support you, and what are some things that they could have done better?
I think they did a really amazing job. Whenever I felt anxious about something, they were always there to explain everything, because I was one who wanted to know everything that was going on to the highest level possible. Same with the rest of my family. I remember the first day, or when we were getting walked through the consolidation phase, my doctor was laying out the children's oncology group paper, and at the end of the visit, I said, "Hey, can I keep that paper?" I really wanted to know everything, so they did a really good job with that. Do you have anything you want to add about this?
I'd just say the doctors and nurses that we've had to work with at Hopkins have been absolutely incredible. They've built such an amazing relationship with the nurses. The nurses make all the difference in the world when it comes to being in clinic and inpatient, and then the doctors have been fantastic too. It's great to see them build a relationship. I wish we could hang out with these people for other reasons.
Well, thank you guys so much.